What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central. And on this, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central. And on today's episode, we'll be discussing the Bulls and how they stack up so far 6 games into the season. We'll also be previewing the game against Boston that's coming up tonight. We'll go into all of that right after this. All right, Bulls fans. So this is the first thing that I want to talk about here is just how the Bulls are stacking up, how they're sitting 6 games into the season versus what some of the expectations were, both from the fans and from outside of the Bulls fandom. And, you know, the first thing that I do want to mention and notice in this is that the Bulls are top 10 in both offense and defense, right? And so coming into the season, we all know that the national media decided to pick the narrative of the Chicago Bulls, who was going to defend. That was something that, you know, was talked about from Bulls fans, distractors, everything. Detractors, I guess is what I should have said instead of distractors. But and right now, the Bulls right now are 10th in offense, which is probably a little bit lower than some were expecting, and we're 6th, I'm sorry, in defense and 5th overall in net rating. So what that means, right? And what the way that I take a look at that is that first, the Bulls defense is so far legit, right? Yes, even against New York, we played solid defense, even against the Jazz. And those are the 2 teams that are looked at as our first real test, so to say, right? Even though if we were bad defensively, we would have been bad defensively even against bad teams. But nonetheless, we've been very consistent with defense. And coming into the season, the national media and even like some within the fandom, right, would not have expected the Bulls to be ranked that high defensively. And I said it in the last couple of videos. The Bulls defense has been more consistent than the offense. So what does that mean? That the Bulls keep the pressure on, right? That while individually one-on-one defenders, we don't have a lot of those on this team. We have some, right? We do have some. But the Bulls are playing great team defense. They're engaged. They have their heads up. They're playing in the passing lanes. They're getting deflections. Not a lot of blocks so far, which may be changing if Derrick Jones Jr. and Tony Bradley play consistently the way that they played in the last game. That may change. So when you look at like the Bulls defense and how it still has chances to get better, right? That's the scary thing of it. Like, yes, it also has some chances to get worse as we play better competition. Just being admitted it even as a Bulls fan and being objective. Yes, our defense can be worse than what it has been. Maybe we're seeing a flash in the pan. Maybe we're seeing just early excitement from the season. I want to make sure that I mention all that because I don't want to just be a one-sided Bulls fan. But I don't believe that. I'm just saying that there's a chance of that. But there is absolutely also a chance that our defense improves. When you look at what Tony Bradley and Derrick Jones Jr., how they changed the outlook of that game from a rebounding standpoint and getting us more possessions. And then Derrick Jones Jr. with the blocks, even Tony Bradley. I think all of our blocks in the game against the Utah Jazz, I'd have to go back and look it up, came from those 2 players. So just keep that in mind as well. That's going to improve our defense. And I'm not saying that the Bulls we may stay number 6. Maybe we'll improve to number 5 and get in the top 5 defense. It's possible. But again, this is why when the national media starts picking a narrative to have, they kind of stick to it, right? And I've said that before because it was all about the Bulls defense, all about the Bulls defense. Who's going to defend? How are they going to stay legit? Whatever else with that. And the Bulls have proven that they are playing not just good defense, top of the league defense. Let's let that be clear. Our defense is ranked not only in the top half, the top 10 in the league. We're also top 10 in offense as well with the 10th rated offense. And the offense is the thing that people just assumed we were going to be really good at. We were going to score points. And when you look at the Bulls' efficiency with offense, we haven't played a very efficient offensive game yet. Yeah, we've had stretches, but when you go back and look at it, there's always somebody who's cold. We haven't had a game where everybody has shot the ball well yet. So even though we're ranked 10th in offense, I can easily see that being raised up. Yes, Zach LaVine has the thumb injury. We know all about that. DeMar DeRozan, you know, he hasn't been as efficient in some games. Some games have been more efficient. Vooch is really the one. He has not been very efficient offensively at all this season. Then we know Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball has shot the ball well in stretches, but not overall in the season. So when you look at that, that's our top 4 players, and none of them have had really the efficiency. Zach is close, right? Zach is close. Let's be clear. Zach is close, but none of them have been as efficient as what they've been, even if you go in years past. So with that being said, there's absolutely a way and a route that you can see that the Bulls offense even increasing. We could very well have top 5 offense and defensive team in this league. And we'll talk about how things improve. And, if the Bulls do make a move for another big man, a defensive minded big or whatever else, how that can help them change as well. But the Bulls right now are sitting in a really good place. And I think that for the people who doubted the Chicago Bulls heading into this season, it's time for some of them to start eating some crow. Now, they won't, right? And I've said this before, especially in the national media. They won't. They'll probably only talk about when the Bulls do have a bad defensive game just to save face. But we have to start realizing that we have a legit team 6 games into the season. Let's see how it goes. We'll see where our numbers rank at after this hellified month that we have. But as of right now, it's working, right? And when you look at even the fact that we have 2 players in the top 20 of scoring, and DeMar DeRozan sitting, I think, right at 20th, and Zach LaVine sitting at 8th scoring wise so far in points per game. Again, another narrative buster on can they play together? And it's more than just stats, right? Watching them out there on the court, they're absolutely still doing that thing where it's my turn, your turn thing. And so it's not as cohesive as the numbers even look yet. That's why I keep saying that the Bulls offense can keep getting better. Because they're still figuring each other out. They're still figuring out how to play. As good as the preseason that they look together, that same chemistry that we saw in the preseason hasn't been the same, and it shouldn't have been, right? They're still figuring it out. Zach and DeMar DeRozan have scored 20 points or more in 5 games this season. It's 5 out of 6 games. No other team has a 1-2 punch that is scoring that consistently together. So it's, and then Alex Caruso averaging the most steals in the league right now as a 6th man, right? This is why I said, and Alex Caruso shooting for all intents and purposes hasn't been as good as what it was in the preseason either. Again, ways that this team can continue to improve. Now, I did talk about it in the last video. The Bulls are 28th in bench scoring, but that's towards the bottom half of the league. Kobe White coming back in December. And, it's going to probably, let's just say it takes him 5 or 6 games before, and maybe more. Let's be conservative. 10 games. Let's say it takes him 10 games before he really gets in the groove, finds his way in this offense. Even though, like I said before, him coming in that second unit, he's almost playing in a perfect position for himself because he's going to be off the ball so much. He's not going to have to do almost any ball handling. But let's just say it takes him a while to get his groove in, figure out where he fits in. Let's say that it does take a while for that. We're still going to improve in bench offense that way, which is going to help our overall offensive rating as well. The Bulls are in a great position. And I'm not just saying this. This is why I wanted to come into this with data to back it up rather than just come as a Bulls fan, because the Bulls passed the eye test, right? They passed it when you see them out there, even though sometimes the shots aren't falling. They passed the test of the eye of when they look in the wins. They're 5-1. Regardless of what you want to say about the competition, they're 5-1. But this is where we sit now as Bulls fans. We sit in a good position. We haven't been in a position this good to start the season, and God knows how long. This is great for the Bulls. And, the Bulls were 12th in defense last year. That was the top half of the league, and we improved. We got better defensive players since then. So, that whole narrative of the Bulls weren't going to be good on defense, I have always spoken about it and said that there was a chance with the way Billy Donovan coaches, but it's good to see that they prove that, right? That they prove that. So let's move on to what the other thing that I want to talk about. Of course, we're playing the Boston Celtics this game. The Boston Celtics, as of right now, have no one on the injury report. They're going to be in full power. We know what we are dealing with injury-wise. And I think Tony Bradley and DJ are going to be important in this game as well. They're going to be important with deterring people from coming to the rim, getting more offensive rebounds for this team, keeping up the energy. This is going to be a game where we're gonna have to have a big night from somebody, right? Whether it's Vooch, whether it's DeMar, I would love to see a big offensive game from Lonzo Ball. I really would. Not just like to say that he needs to prove anything, because he doesn't. I'm just saying, as a fan, right? As a Bulls fan, I would love to see Lonzo Ball go off um, at some point in this game. I think, we know Lonzo Ball has the potential, but it's not really his game, but he does have the potential to do so. But yeah, we're just going to continue to see what we've seen. I think seeing how we continue to fill that gap of Patrick Williams and Devontae Green, it's good to see Devontae Green's energy, his activity, everything. We all know we love to see him out there. He has to get those fouls underway, in control, right? Under control. He has to get those fouls under control also. I think we start seeing that from Devontae Green, getting those fouls under control. Sky's the limit really for him. But yeah, I'm just really excited to see more DJ and Tony Bradley as well. I think Vooch, he in that last game, those 5 points that he scored in succession were great, and they were big time buckets. I would like to see a more consistent game from Vooch as well. How we guard Tatum and Brown is going to be key as well. This is going to be one of those games where I think that, and the reason why I didn't say a big game from Zach LaVine is because Zach is going to have his work cut out for him on the offense and defensive end with who he's matched up against. This is going to be a game where Zach, he's improving defensively, absolutely. We're going to have to see that continued improvement from him in this game, and it's going to be more evident on how he's playing defensively. And, Zach, yeah, Billy Donovan even mentioned that Zach doesn't seem himself since the thumb injury. That makes sense, right? That makes sense. It makes sense that he's not quite himself and he's still trying to figure it out and get comfortable as well. But I think we need to see a solid game from Zach on both sides of the ball. I think that's very possible as well. I know that there's this rising thing in about DeMar, and I try not to make what's in my comments just like the Bulls fandom as a whole, because I know it's not. We're bigger than that. But even like on Twitter and the conversations I have, it seems like people are somewhat down on DeMar, and I don't really understand that. He's not a perfect player at all, right? He's not a perfect player, and I understand he missed that game-winning shot, and maybe that's what started a lot of it. But DeMar, he's gonna have to stay focused and be engaged offensively as well. But I think key, especially in that starting lineup, since we don't have a lot of length, who's gonna guard Jason Tatum? And then how are they going to guard him is going to be an important part of this game as well. But we'll continue to see what happens. I'll be here right after the game with the video shortly thereafter being posted. I don't know if I'll be going live again after the game, but I'll definitely be getting the video out shortly after the game. So I like to end every video on, I love you guys. Oh, wait, but let me know down below, what do you think are going to be some key things in this game against the Celtics to look out for? Who do you expect to have a big game against the Boston Celtics? Let me know down below. But all right, I'm going to go ahead and end the video. Like I like to end every video on, go Bulls. I love you guys. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.